Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Oyelowo-Abdulraheem by name from Department of Veterinary Anatomy, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, University of Abuja. I'm here for 1213 class, course Anatomy 1, Myology. Myology is study of muscles. Muscles run on the body attached to the skeletal system. Skeletal system, we discussed it in our previous class. Discussed the skeletal system of the bovine species. And it's on this system that the muscles are attached. The muscles aid the movement of the animal from one place to another. They are usually skeletal in nature because they are attached to the skeletal system and they have the characteristics of skeletal muscles. Muscles have different roles and are located at different parts of the body. For this module, we're taking those muscles attached to the forelimb. They are divided into muscles of the shoulder girdle, muscles of the arm, and muscles of the forearm. Each muscle has its own characteristics, having its own origin. The origin is usually fixed at a point. Then each muscle has its own insertion or attachment, or what it finally attaches to. They are all supplied by blood, so they have blood supply and they have nerve supply. Each muscle has its own action, key roles that it plays as the animals move around. And lastly, but not the least, each muscle has a relation as it is associated to muscles around it or structures close to the muscles. The objectives of this module are: 1, to identify the muscles that hold the forelimb to the body. 2, to trace the origin and insertion of each muscle. 3, to identify and trace their blood and nerve supplies. Muscles of the shoulder girdle. These muscles connect the forelimb with the head, neck, and trunk. There is no true joint between the forelimb and the trunk, thereby no bony articulation of the trunk. The joint where muscles play a role of ligaments is called synsaccusis. So these synsaccutic muscles are divided into 2 groups, the dorsal group and the ventral group of muscles. The dorsal group of muscles are trapezius, rhomboideus, latissimus dorsi, brachiocephalicus, and transversalis, while the ventral group of muscles are pectoralis descendens, pectoralis transversus, pectoralis ascendens, serratus ventralis, and subclavius muscle. Taking a look at this diagram, this is the myology of equine species. Some of the muscles located here are part of the muscles from the dorsal group of synsaccutic muscle. As you can see here, you have trapezius, latissimus dorsi, and brachiocephalicus. These 3 muscles attach the forelimb to the trunk, while these 2, cranial pectoral and counter pectoral, are the ventral group of muscles, and they attach the forelimb to the trunk ventrally. Trapezius is the first muscle to be discussed. Trapezius is a triangular shaped muscle. It is flat and divided by an aponeurotic tendon into 2 parts. As you can see, this is a triangular muscle on the skeletal system of the bovine species. This muscle is divided into cervical parts and thoracic parts. The cervical part originates from the funicular part of the ligamentum nuchae of the vertebral column. It originates from C2, that is the second cervical, down to the third thoracic. To identify the third thoracic, you can count from the ribs. Here, the first rib, the second rib, the third rib. The third rib articulates with the third thoracic vertebrae dorsally. So the third thoracic vertebrae is somewhere here, thereby having the cervical part running down this way, and it inserts on the scapular spine of the scapular bone. The thoracic part, on the other hand, originates from the third thoracic bone down to the 12th thoracic bone. As you can see from here, the cervical part originates this way from T2 to T3, inserting on the scapular spine, while the thoracic part originates from T3 to T12. It also inserts on the scapular spine in the same fashion as the trapezius muscle. The blood supply to this muscle, that is the trapezius muscle, is by way of dorsal, cervical, deep cervical, and intercostal arteries, while the nerve supply is by way of spinal accessory nerve. Action. Trapezius muscle acts in moving the animal forward and backward. The cervical part pulls the scapula forward and upwards, while the thoracic part pulls the scapula backward and upward. So it aids in forward and backward movements of the animal. The relation of the trapezius muscle. It is related to the cranial muscle, that is the brachiocephalicus is located cranially to the trapezius. Now, this trapezius has its own cranial border adjoining the caudal border of the brachiocephalicus. Superficially, the trapezius is related to the skin, and next to the trapezius deeply is the rhomboideus muscle. Rhomboideus muscle. The rhomboideus muscle has two parts similar to the trapezius. It has the cervical and thoracic part. The cervical part originates from second cervical to the second thoracic vertebrae and inserts on the medial surface of the scapular cartilage. Medial surface of the scapular cartilage. The thoracic part of the rhomboideus originates from T2 to T8, that is the second thoracic to the 8th thoracic vertebrae. It also inserts on the medial surface of the scapular cartilage. From this diagram, you can see the trapezius muscle, the cervical part, thoracic part, and the rhomboideus lying next to the trapezius. Blood supply to rhomboideus muscle. It is by way of dorsal and deep cervical arteries, while the nerve supply is by 6th and 7th cervical nerve. Action. It draws the scapula upward and forward. Relation of rhomboideus muscle. Superficially, it is related to the trapezius muscle that I mentioned earlier on. It's also related superficially to the scapular cartilage because its insertion is on the medial surface of the scapular cartilage. So invariably, the scapular cartilage is superficially located to the rhomboideus muscle. Deeply, the rhomboideus is related to the dorsal scapular ligament, splenius, and serratus dorsalis. Here are my references. In conclusion, we have gone through the dorsal and ventral group of synsaccotic muscle. We have mentioned them, and we have looked into trapezius and rhomboideus critically. In our next class, we'll be taking the latissimus dorsi and brachiocephalicus. Thank you.